Hello everyone, and welcome to another beer review. Now, this is supposed to be a Wednesday video, but I forgot to bloody bring the whiskey up with me. So, we'll still be a Wednesday video, but we'll maybe kind of bypass the whiskey this week. Not because I actually planned to, it's because I forgot to bring it up. God, I'm bloody useless, so I am. But today we're doing a non-alcoholic or an alcohol-free beer. So alcohol-free beer, and here's a strange one. I bought it based on the name, and then when I got it and I read it and I'm thinking, I've done it again. So I bought a beer called Bavaria, but then if you look at what it says on it, Holland. Now, I'm not saying I was great at geography at school, but I always thought Bavaria was in Germany, not in Holland. It kind of shows you what I know. Yeah. So it's 0.0% alcohol free. There's a 330ml can, and yeah, it's brewed in Holland. It's supposed to be a lager. Got a little glass to go with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this one first in this video, and then I'll do some other Wednesday videos with maybe some alcohol. But what I will do is I'm actually going to make my own alcohol-free beer, or low alcohol beer, or non-alcohol beer. So anything from 0.5% downwards is classed as non-alcohol. Alcohol-free basically means there's no alcohol in it at all. You know, and I've got my bottle. I've got my pressurized bottle system. So I have 6 of these, and you can see it's a pressure valve in it and things like this. So this is actually the filling head. So I can actually basically produce beer, make my own ferment beer, brew beer, or I can take an existing beer and remove the alcohol and then put it in a pressurized system, make sure it's carbonated without having to go through any kind of bottle conditioning or things like that, and brings it back. So these systems, they're supposed to be quite good. So this is the pressurized filling vessel, and then there's another cap that goes on top of it afterwards and things like that, and you can obviously see how it does it. It goes down through the bottom with this, which is not, I do like it down through the bottom. No, but anyway, my wee Remy things come up. Anyway, we'll just slip that back on and we'll just say no more about it, as I say. But yes, so the whole idea is it gives us an equal pressure filling system for the bottles, and I've got 6 of these. So a keg is usually about 5 litres if I was brewing it, or basically making my own kind of product from an existing product. But this allows me to obviously utilise all that in the bottles, and I've still got a spare one, which means it's a lot easier to carry about and things like that, and then you can just pour it out like a normal beer afterwards once you've released the pressure. So that's a handy thing for a lot of different reasons, and it's more like a kind of a commercial bottling system from that point of view. So I'm looking forward to trying that, because I would say it's something that's kind of missing with a lot of these kind of small batch fermenting systems, and I think they're very smart to do that. So if it delivers what I hope it delivers, it's going to be good fun, and we'll get a chance to find it out in the next few Wednesday videos to see if I can actually make a decent non-alcoholic beer myself. And then again, it could be an absolute disaster, and I made it taste like absolutely piss water, and then I can slag myself off and say how useless I am and give myself fuck all out of 10 and slag myself off, but the bottle's reused, so I'll still get a point. Right, let's pour this. We'll maybe make this a slightly, oh god, Jesus, strange smell off that. Slightly cabbage smell. There'll fucking be a cabbage smell if it's in a bloody can. So it's not Light Strike, something else is fucking giving the cabbage smell. Yeah, there's also a kind of sweetness there that's not malty. Again, some of these, one of the biggest things is the process is there's a kind of different ways of doing and removing alcohol. One of the processes is to obviously boil it off, but again you've got to be careful because you can burn the malt and everything else, and even then it takes time, so a lot of energy is quite energy intensive, because It takes a while, depending if you're using the right vessel. It can take 30 minutes to boil off. Like if you take like 500 ml, it can take you 30 minutes to basically boil off 95% of the alcohol. You know, if it's like a 5% beer. But if you're using a less kind of flat, kind of large surface area vessel, when you're doing that, if you're using a less kind of large surface area, you know, more of a kind of a higher walled vessel, then it can take up to 2.5 hours. So that type of system isn't the best. There's other ways you can do it. There's ways where basically you can brew it with full alcohol and then you use an osmosis system to try and take away the alcohol. Again, bit energy intensive and everything else, and you've got to have the right equipment, which isn't the cheapest. Or one of the most popular ways that they don't tell you is that they make the beer but they don't actually ferment it, so they just basically make a wort. And it kind of stands out now because in the US what's very popular is hop water, which is basically water infused with hops and other flavourings, maybe like fruit flavourings and things like that, and that seems to be quite popular as a beer alternative from a non-alcoholic point of view. But one of the things you could do is, if you took spent grains, because you never get rid of all the sugar and all that, so if you created a wort using grains, if you basically well, you can either soak them or you can sparse them through with a water jet and try and kind of remove any kind of sugars, any natural sugars, enzymes from the grains. You could use that with a tiny little bit of yeast to bottle conditioning fermentation to naturally carbonate it, add hops as well, and that would give you more of a kind of hop water with a little bit of kind of malt, and the sugar should create a tiny amount of alcohol, I mean, negligible, maybe 0.1, 0.2, but would obviously give you natural carbonation and obviously would kind of work a little bit better. So it would give you a slightly more body to your hop water and things like that. So there's that. But one of the things they can do, and very popular, is they just make the wort and then they dilute it, and then it's a case as though they bottle it or can it, and it's just really a kind of diluted wort, and that's for me is the worst. That's the worst option, and I think it's one of the cheapest and nastiest options. Another thing you can do, which is a famous one, which Guinness did. How Guinness got the calibre was they make a beer, make a kind of low alcohol lager, maybe about 3%, and then dilute the fuck out of it to get the alcohol content down, which is lovely. So there we go. That's Bavaria from Holland. Smell wise, yeah, well, there's getting that slightly calibre kind of smell, that kind of unnatural kind of sweet smell, you think. Doesn't smell beer like, and maybe a little bit of kind of warty smell behind it. Again, doesn't smell beer like because it doesn't smell like it's been fermented. And this was it $5.99 for 8 cans, about $5.29. It was just over a five or whatever for 8 cans. So you're kind of questioning that. Yeah, there is that kind of non-alcohol kind of sweetness there that you think, where does that come from? It's kind of grainy, slightly warty sweetness, and doesn't taste like it's been fermented in any way, shape or form. You're not picking up any hop flavours or anything like that. It's just a kind of, it's like wort before you do the boil, and then they've just kind of diluted it. And it is probably supposed to be a lager, but it's a bit kind of more malty in the flavour than any lager you would expect to have, you know. So again, why are you getting that? And it looks like, yeah, they made a light ale wort and then they've diluted it down. It's okay, but let's be totally honest, if I was in a pub and I wanted a non-alcoholic option, then I'd maybe go for a fruit juice or something like that, or maybe go for a cup of tea or coffee or things like that. I think that there's better non-alcoholic drinks that actually taste of what they're supposed to taste of, rather than having a non-alcoholic drink that's supposed to taste and replicate beer, but all intents purposes, apart from maybe how it looks and how it pours, doesn't really taste like it. And this is the same. So what would I give this out of 10? Here's a question. From a non-alcoholic point of view, especially in the past, if you take it as a good example, the last beers we did, the last kind of non-alcoholic beers we did, the best one turned out to be non-alcoholic Guinness. I'm not saying it was brilliant, but it tastes closer to the original. It didn't taste completely like the original, but it did taste closer to the original than any other ones. But this is supposed to be a lager, and yeah, it doesn't really taste like a lager, which probably, to some intents purposes in the UK, is probably a good thing. But for this one, I would say, yeah, it's kind of lacking. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10. It doesn't feel like it's fermented. I think it's only kind of cheaper processing wise. In other words, let's just make a cheap wort and then dilute it. I think that's what it feels. It hasn't gone through any fermentation. It's never contained alcohol, and I think they went that route because it's the cheapest kind of way of doing it. So yeah, it's 3 out of 10. It's a 330ml can. I wouldn't recommend it. There's better non-alcohol options out there without trying to pretend that you're drinking a beer. So yeah, not for me. But let's see if there's any better ones out there. So look out for the next few Wednesday videos, and they'll probably will have some whiskey in it because I think we're going to need it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Cheers, and bye for now.